like to help.
Spencer Callahan is the one to see. Call 387-2323.
LA filing number 16-7969.
WNXX Jackson, KNXX Donaldsonville, and WDGL HD2 Baton Rouge. This hour brought to you by Spencer Callahan Injury Lawyers. LA 21-12681. Offices in Baton Rouge. Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boy, does it smell good.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
That's good.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio, this is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer not coming to you from Mercedes-Benz at Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city. Instead, right here on Radio Row in New Orleans for Super Bowl 59. We're brought to you by LeBear's Baton Rouge. Appreciate them for making this possible. Got Jacob Beck and Cassie Spazzali back there in the studio on the ones and twos. And as you might guess, we got a lot to do over the next 2 hours. Brooke Choulet is going to join us coming up in 15 minutes. She is a sports psychiatrist. Very interested to see what she's got to say. She does a lot of work with the Phoenix Suns and the different players associations around American professional sports. So we'll chat with her in 15 minutes. Adam Devine. Yeah, that one. He of a few things that you've probably seen, Pitch Perfect being one, of course, and you've got, of course, I'm blanking on the Comedy Central show where he plays the guys. Workaholics. There it is. There it is. He's on Workaholics as well. I'm going to get him to stop by here in 30 minutes. Excited for that conversation. Lorenzo Neal, all-time NFL great at fullback, and the guy who was the Chargers fullback until Hester showed up is going to be here at 2 o'clock. Ricky Cobb from Outkick, who runs a great social media account on Twitter from 70 Sports, and he's a really funny guy that we'll get a chance to talk to in the second hour. Brian Kelly met with the media yesterday. We'll do that as well. So plenty to do here on this Thursday. Of course, our Thursday show is brought to you by Rouse's Markets. We'll start now the same way we start every single day, and that's with our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
Unfortunately, we're not going to have a ton of fun for the first 10 minutes of the show because we are going to talk about the basketball team. I'm confident the morning show didn't do that at all, and I feel like there's a chance that Matt may not talk about the basketball team because there's not a lot to talk about after their last two outings, but we're going to spend the first 10 minutes on it, and then we'll move right along. Last night, LSU smoked in Athens. 81-62 was the final. Cade with the appropriate sound bar there. It was a disaster, and I think a lot of people have one thing that stood out to them about this game. You looked at LSU in the first half, and they were just throwing up threes from everywhere. Everywhere. And that's not something they've been good at. In fact, they're the worst three-point shooting team in the Southeastern Conference. We talked about it last week. They were the fourth worst shooting team from three-point range in the Power 5 conferences. And so what do? They go to Athens, Georgia, and in the first half, of their first 24 shots, 21 of them were threes. Just throwing up threes from everywhere. And they actually made some of them, which I didn't see coming, quite frankly. They buried 4 of their first 6. But even so, making some shots early in the game, you still don't even have a lead. Because of the real culprit in this game. The real culprit in this game was LSU's defense, which has now betrayed it 2 games in a row. So you can point to the fact that a bad three-point shooting team shot a ton of threes, and yeah, that's probably not a great way to go about business. I likened it on LouisianaSports.net to Les Miles' teams spreading it out 5 wide and throwing it 56 times, or Skip Bertman's team trying to shoot balls through the right side or maybe do a little bunting. You just play to a weakness, and that's what LSU appeared to do. But that's not the issue. It's not the 3-ball. It's the defense. Georgia entered this game as an offense without an identity. They entered this game averaging 66 points per game in league play. They entered this game 27% from the three-point line in league play. That was worst in the SEC in league games. And you allowed that Georgia team to score 81 points. That is unacceptable. Georgia has at no point shown they were capable of being that kind of offense. And you go back to Saturday against Texas. You allowed Texas to run up more points against you than against anyone since a mid-December game against UNO. LSU has shot the ball poorly a lot of the year. LSU has rebounded poorly a lot of the year. LSU has turned the ball over the entire year. But they stayed in games and won some games because their first shot defense was good. That has now fractured. It was terrible on Saturday, and it was terrible again on Wednesday. And I think one of the laziest takes that you can have as a commentator, as a fan, as someone who's analyzed, one of the laziest takes you can have when someone gets beat is, they came out flat. Came out flat. Didn't want it. Lack of effort. I think oftentimes that's a lazy take because I think it sometimes is thought of as an excuse for a team that just got beat. So it takes a lot for me to question effort, to question it. I'm not declaring that LSU has quit. I am not doing that. But when I look at this box score and I look at a Georgia team that got whatever it wanted on the offensive end of the floor, sometimes that's about effort. When I look at the rebounding margin that LSU lost by 20 in this game, you can think about effort. And when you're on the offensive end of the floor, what's the easy thing to do? It's not to move the ball and penetrate and kick. It's not to drive to the bucket. The easy thing to do is just pull up and shoot a three. And LSU did a lot of that. A lot of that. And so you start to ball all these three things up, and it just stands to reason that you would question whether or not this team remains locked in. Look, 1-7 is a tough place to be. 1-8 is a tougher place to be. These guys, in their post-game press conferences, which I have been to, have praised their team unity, cohesion, team chemistry, all of that throughout the early parts of these SEC struggles. But when you're turning the ball over, you're not rebounding, you're not defending, and you're taking the easiest shot on the floor, you can start to look at that and go, is that 100%? I can't speak to it. I'm not out there. I'm just watching. And I don't use the Q word very often, and I'm not going to use it today in terms of declaring that LSU has waved a white flag. I'm not there. I think they're an overmatched team that understands the position they're in. They've played two very, very bad games, and we'll let the rest of the season dictate whether or not these guys are going to be locked in. Because you understand you're in a different era now. And how much does that purple and gold really mean to everybody in that locker room? I don't know. It may mean everything. Cam Carter said that. Some of the guys, that have transferred in from lower levels, maybe this is a big, big deal to them, and I'm just completely off base. I'm leaving the door open for that. But you realize that a lot of them are one-year guys, two-year guys, maybe guys who have been at LSU but aren't planning on being at LSU next year. Like, how much does it mean? There was a time where you could say that it really did. I don't know that you can speak to that quite as eloquently like right now. And when you get dusted by two teams who were under 500 in league play, the way that LSU has been thoroughly dusted their last two times out, man, you open the door to a lot of discussion. A lot of discussion. And last night was really, really disheartening. You look at some of the statistics that were staggering. Georgia won paint points in this game 44-14. They beat LSU in the paint by 30 points. LSU did not have a 2-point field goal for the first 18 minutes of game time. 18 minutes without making a two. That is really, really hard to do. Now, maybe it was in the plan to shoot a bunch of threes, because it's not like LSU was getting twos whenever they wanted them. LSU was 4 of 15 on layups in this game. 4 of 15 on layups. And this, to me, is a bit of an effort stat here. Jordan Sears, Cam Carter, and Jai Bailey, LSU's starting backcourt. They combined for 4 rebounds in 89 minutes. 4 rebounds in 89 minutes. Blue Kane, a Georgia guard, had 10 in 30. It's bad. It is really, really bad. And it doesn't bring me any joy whatsoever to sit here and talk about this. Like, I hate it. I hate it for Matt McMahon. I hate it for the players. I hate it for the fan base. I like watching that team play basketball, and right now the last two products they've put out there have been unwatchable. And it's just, I pointed to this earlier this week on Monday's show, so we're not going to relitigate everything that we talked about on Monday. I made my point. It was clear. I think it's going to be difficult to reverse this complete halt in momentum. I think it's going to be difficult to ratchet it back up in the offseason or into next year. I really do. And I made that clear on Monday. But this is the 2024-25 team we're talking about here. And if we can just put the program talk aside and just talk about this team, this is a slippery slope, because now you've lost 5 in a row, and now they probably didn't get into Baton Rouge until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. You've lost a night of sleep. It's Thursday. You got to try to catch up on some sleep. You've got a top 15 team coming in for a quick turnaround on Saturday, and that matchup is awful, and it just doesn't feel like there's a halt to this thing in sight. And last night was really disheartening because Georgia's not very good. They played well at home. And you see the bracketology, and it looks like they're potentially, a 11 seed or something. It's not a great team. And they absolutely outclassed LSU. And maybe that's because of talent. Maybe that's because of preparation. Maybe that's because of execution. Or maybe it's a lack of effort. I'm not ready to declare which side of the fence I'm on today. I'm opening the door, though. Because every single metric you can point to for hustling, which does not point to everything, but all the metrics are painting a pretty bleak picture. It's a huge bummer. But, hey, I've got a piece up on LouisianaSports.net right now previewing relief pitching, and we'll talk some baseball a little later. And we're 8 days from first pitch, so that's kind of the way things go down here in Baton Rouge. We're here on Radio Row with Super Bowl 59. Super Bowl 59. There it is. Not 49. They already had 50. Super Bowl 59, and had them a blast all week long. It's been a ton of fun. Appreciate LeBear's Baton Rouge for making it possibility. We've got a lot to do over the next 30 minutes. A couple of guests coming in. Adam Devine, comedian, actor, going to be with us in about 15 minutes. We'll take a time out. Brooke Choulet, who is a sports psychiatrist, is going to be with us coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com is the website. Every car that is on the lot is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. When I say Genesis of Baton Rouge, you should think luxury. But when I say that and you think luxury, don't think, well, I can't afford it. You'd be surprised. Genesis model is luxury vehicle at a reasonable price. Get on by and work with their team over there at Genesis of Baton Rouge. Hang out with their brand ambassadors. Get behind the wheel of one of their fantastic vehicles, and you'll see the difference. You'll understand how sleek and stylish and comfortable these cars are. Never been by the dealership. It's on Airline at Pico across from Women's Hospital. Fairly new, just 2 years in that location. Get on by and see them. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge, and you can find them online at genesisofbatonrouge.com.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972. Service Chevrolet Cadillac, our family serving your family.
For over 50 years.
There's never been a better time to catch a John Deere deal from the crew of Sunshine. Ask us about our low monthly payment options on our tractor packages and let the good times roll. With equipment strong enough to power one of the world's largest celebrations, we've got your needs covered too. Learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com. Some restrictions apply. See dealer for details. Offer ends March 5th, 2025.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
The Hunt Palmer Show, live from Super Bowl 59 Radio Row in New Orleans. Presented by L'Auberge Casino Hotel, Baton Rouge.
We're here on Radio Row, Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans, brought to you by L'Auberge Baton Rouge. Walked in today. We all have heard us say this all week, but the intensity has gone up and up and up each and every day. And today is even greater than it was yesterday, and I'm anticipating that tomorrow will be greater than today. I walked in to the big media room, which is just absolutely massive today, and the first 2 people I saw kind of in walking from the door to the set were Lawrence Taylor and Joe Montana. I was just like, well, that's 2 of the 5 best players who have ever played football before right here. And we're hanging out. The USA Today folks are right next to us, and they do a pretty good job of booking guests, I must say. Joe Burrow stopped on by. We made an effort. He was all booked up. Stephen A. Smith just got up from his chair right there with USA Today. So lots and lots of folks out and about today. Malik Neighbors is in. Jake's going to get him with the SiriusXM crew coming up here today, and you'll maybe hear some of that on tomorrow's OTB. So that's great for us from a local perspective. And so there's a lot going on here, as you might imagine. I kind of run through the guest list that we're going to have today, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have Brooke here shortly. Adam Devine is going to join us. Adam Devine, actually from Pitch Perfect, from Workaholics, spent some time in Baton Rouge filming Pitch Perfect. So want to get some of his thoughts on filming on LSU's campus. He's also was raised in Omaha. I'm curious if he'll have any realization of how big a deal Omaha is in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. My guess is no, but we'll see. We'll talk to him coming up in a few minutes. I've made Hester jealous. I don't get to make Jacob Hester jealous very often. That's not something that I can do a ton of, but I do today because I get Lorenzo Neal at 2 o'clock. 16 years as a fullback in the NFL, so we'll talk to Lo Neal coming up. Brian Kelly met with the media yesterday. I thought had some pretty interesting things to say on the roster side of things. We'll get into some of that sound. But while we're here right now, I just want to we'll kind of address the situation that Brian Kelly felt necessary to address yesterday when he initially met with the media. Before he got into the purpose of the press conference, as he described it, which was to talk about the transfer portal ads and the new staff additions, he felt it necessary to address the Greg Brooks story on Good Morning America. I can't imagine many of y'all missed that story. But if you did, Greg Brooks and his father were on Good Morning America with Michael Strahan in a taped segment, and they spoke about Greg's situation from being a defensive back at LSU to the symptoms that he was undergoing to eventually the diagnosis and the brain cancer and the surgery to remove it, and then the recovery and the road that he's been on since. And while, as I mentioned yesterday, none of what was in the Good Morning America interview was completely earth-shattering from a new factual perspective. it was just shedding more light on Greg's current situation by showing video of him in his day-to-day life, and then obviously the Q&A portion where Greg is compromised in his speech. He's compromised with his motor skills. He's in a wheelchair, and his speech is compromised as well. And so that was something that you could read about but didn't see until Good Morning America took the opportunity to sit down with him. But the big quote that came out from that sit-down was Greg Brooks Sr., father of Greg Brooks, saying that they had not heard from anyone in LSU's football department since October of 2023, just after the diagnosis, especially Brian Kelly. And then Greg Brooks Sr. went on to say, like, hey, man, why couldn't you just pick up the phone, tell my kid you love him, like he's a player on your team? And the inference that I certainly made was, like, Brian Kelly never spoke to Greg Brooks again once he, had brain surgery. And I mean, how would I know? I'm not there with Brian Kelly. I wasn't there with Greg Brooks. We're just listening to what is being said. And Brian Kelly immediately went to the mic before he made any sort of statement about the transfer portal class or took a single question. He went to the podium and said, look, like, I want to address something that is categorically false. I was present during Greg's recovery. I was there multiple times, and someone within LSU's football department was there nearly every single day. And he said that the statement touched a nerve with him. And that is interesting. We're not, I don't think, going to learn any facts from it, and I'm not here to really draw any further conclusions from that. I'm just here to say that it's interesting that one party suggests one thing vehemently and the other party completely disagrees. This is not ancient history. This is not something that you would have forgotten about at this point. Certainly, Greg's word, Greg Jr.'s word may be tough to take when when he's under the medical care that he is and going through the intense surgeries and recovery that he did. But the family, I would think, would have a reasonable understanding of how often Brian Kelly and or members of the LSU football staff were at the hospital in the most trying days of their life. So that to me is interesting. And again, I'm not here to say this person is right, to say that person is right, because there's no way for me to know. But it is interesting to bring up. And Brian Kelly said, look, you can criticize me as a coach. You can criticize the plays that we call. You can criticize the recruits that we bring in. You can criticize the results on the field. But once you come off the field, that line is drawn very clearly. And he felt like his character was under attack. He felt like his relationships with his players were under the microscope and being questioned. And he felt it necessary to come out and make a very, very strong statement, and he did. So I'm curious if there's going to be a follow-up. Now, I'll tell you all this from a journalistic perspective because I'm dipping my toe back into those waters now with LouisianaSports.net and doing a little bit of I would hesitate to call it reporting on a day-to-day basis. We were the first ones to write a story online about Omar the Tiger coming, which is not exactly hard-hitting news, but we had that up on the website. And there's a bit of me that is trying to find out some information here and there about some things. But I'll tell you all this, if you're looking for some sort of further development on that. LSU football is pretty reserved with off-season headlines and press conferences. Spring football's coming up in a month, and Brian Kelly will meet with the media from time to time there. If you're going to hear something further on this issue, then it's going to come from Greg Brooks' camp. And I'm not sure who's in position or desires to ask that question or wants a comment or a rebuttal to what Brian Kelly had to say. But I think you've probably heard the end of it from LSU's side, unless Brian Kelly feels like he's under attack once again and feels the need to, quote-unquote, and I use that term fairly lightly, defend himself from this, what he would determine as categorically false claim. So I found that to be, it's not often. And look, I choose to live in a world surrounded by sports. I'm about to talk to an actor and comedian about goofy stuff in sports, and that's the world that I've chosen to live in. It's the world I'm interested in. I don't like politics. I don't like drama. Hard news is not necessarily my favorite thing in the world. I don't love turning on a lot of the news networks, whether national, internet, whatever the case may be. I don't love talking about that kind of stuff. As little fun as talking about the basketball team shooting 1,000,000 threes yesterday is because they played poorly and lost. Like, I don't like dabbling in real life stuff, especially when you deal with the situation like one that Greg Brooks Jr. is in right now. But it is relevant, and it is something that I felt the need to bring up and talk about here on this show. We're not going to spend like a ton of time on it, but to completely sweep that under the rug, I think would have been misguided on our part. So you look at it, it's a horrible situation any way you look at it, because what's truly not as important as who visited the hospital on what day for how many hours under whose watch and who remembers what. What really matters is that Greg Brooks is going through such a very, very difficult time in his life, and no young person should have to deal with that. And that's something that Greg is still recovering from and dealing with every single day. And that's the most important thing. So you can get caught up in the back and forth into who was doing what and who said what and who was responsible for what, and that's all something the court system will deal with and something that we'll cover as it becomes relevant. But it's just, to me, as I look at it from 30,000 feet, okay, that's a new quote we need to address, but also at the same time, it's just a horrible situation for a young person to have to deal with the things that Greg Brooks is dealing with. So certainly my best and our best here to him as he continues to recover, and hopefully he can move forward as well as humanly possible. We're here on Radio Row here for Super Bowl 59, brought to you by LeBear's Baton Rouge. And we got a ton to do over the next 90 minutes. It's a who's who of the football world around here, and sometimes that involves celebrities as well. So we'll try to catch up with one of those when we come back. It's, of course, a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show presented by Rouse's.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
There's never been a better time to catch a John Deere deal from the crew of Sunshine. Ask us about our low monthly payment options on our tractor packages, and let the good times roll. With equipment strong enough to power one of the world's largest celebrations, we've got your needs covered too. Learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com. Some restrictions apply. See dealer for details. Offer ends March 5th, 2025.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972. Service Chevrolet Cadillac, our family serving your family.
For over 50 years.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Rolling along here on this Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We're brought to you by Rouse's Markets. It's kind of like herding cats around here. You never quite know who you're going to get in the next segment. We're thrilled. We've got Brooke Choulet, who is a sports psychiatrist, joining us here. Brooke, thanks so much for your time. How are you?
Good, good. This is my first time in New Orleans, so I'm
Really?
enjoying it. Yes.
Well, tell us about what you've enjoyed. Have you gotten out to see some restaurants? Have you been down to the French Quarter? What have you enjoyed?
Well, I got here last night.
Okay.
And it's been great just to go around Radio Row. It's my first year here doing this, so just an experience.
It's our first time on Radio Row as well. We're local down Baton Rouge, so we're driving in and out from an hour, and it's been crazy. Just kind of I was telling my audience a little bit earlier, like I walked in and the first two people I saw in this room were Lawrence Taylor and Joe Montana, who are like the two of the five greatest players who have ever played the sport. And there's just a lot of people here with a lot of great stories. So give us a little bit of your background. I know you're in sports psychiatry. You're based out of Arizona. I've worked with the Suns and some of the PAs around American sports, but a little bit of your background.
Sure, yeah. So I'm a concierge sports psychiatrist, meaning I'll go to wherever the athlete needs me, whether
Okay.
that's on site at the practice facility, traveling with a team like I did in the NBA for a few years, really just wherever people need me. So I really provide treatment for depression, anxiety, ADHD, and then just general life stuff, right? So like transition after sport, injury during your sport, all those different pieces that can really tear at an athlete's identity.
When I think about that, my brain immediately goes to like social media and like dealing with fame. Is that a lot of what you do? I mean, I'm just speculating, but that's where my brain would immediately go.
A lot of times it's setting good boundaries with people around you, right? So as an athlete, their salaries are public online oftentimes, their families coming out of the woodworks, expecting things from them. So really just giving that player permission to say no to the people around them and interpreting that not as mean, but as boundary setting.
We do something at Guarantee where I work where we have a personality test, and it helps us to kind of relate to people in the building. I'm what is called a 9 by this metric, and I'm very non-confrontational. I go with the flow. My flaw is I don't take things seriously enough. So I struggle with people who are focused on everything, and that's hard to deal with. I have to pick myself up a little bit and pay attention a little bit more. So it's hard for me to even understand how much these athletes that you're working with are going through with the fame, with the public spotlight, and all those things that are going on, because I'm just kind of I kind of go with the flow. What is, do you think, the most difficult part of what they have to do day in and day out?
I think that mental toughness, right? And really grit is defined by passion plus perseverance. And so everyone that enters the league has a physical skill, right? They've all gotten there because they're good at their sport. But what sets apart those great players from the rest, I would argue it's the mental kind of mindset side of things.
Is there anything you do on the playing surface, whether it's the basketball court or the football field or whatever it may be, or are you purely kind of focusing on life when you get away from practice and games?
Oh, we focus on on-court stuff, especially those that have imposter syndrome, right? Like, I don't deserve to be here. I'm not as good as the people around me, which is, I know you're laughing because it's like we don't see that, right? We're like, oh my gosh, they're so incredible. But imagine losing a game-winning shot, right? And then you get in the locker room, you get to your phone, and not only are you upset with yourself, but then social media is blowing up at you too.
That's the part that I think, and I mean, how, every case is different, obviously, but how plugged in do you think most athletes are to the social media? I think it's so toxic. Again, I can kind of dismiss. I don't get much hate. Trust me, I don't have enough followers to get that. But, like, I can dismiss Joe Internet guy really easily. But they got millions of people that are doing it. You miss a free throw, you miss a shot, you drop a ball. How locked in are those guys to that?
A lot of them have social media managers where they will just delegate that to the manager, and they don't even look. They don't even want to look. And then you have the guys or women that are really excellent at detaching from everyone around them, which is what I encourage people to do. I don't care if someone gives you a compliment, said that was the best shot, you had the best game of your life, or you suck and you should never get on the field again. Neither of those should actually waver your own self-worth, because that should be self-defined.
And, I mean, it's crazy because even walking around this room, I see people that, to me, look larger than life. I mean, Joe Burrow just walked by here. We're in Baton Rouge. He's an LSU guy. I mean, he's the greatest player who's ever played at LSU. And that – but I know people that know Joe. Jacob Hester, who's on our morning show, played in the NFL. He knows Joe really well. It's like, yeah, he just likes to play video games, and, you know, he's just really good at playing quarterback. Sometimes it's hard for us to kind of look at these guys and women as – kind of just like us, but in a sense you do that every single day.
Right, and I make the analogy of a pie with 8 slices. Is the athlete that's in trouble is the one that sees their sport as 7 to 8 of those slices, right? Because then the second day of a season-ending injury, their whole identity is shattered, and now you're at risk for depression, anxiety, all those other things. So like you said, building in those other things you enjoy, whether it's video games, travel, spending time with friends, so that you can have some other pieces of the pie as well.
I feel like the mental health side of things is fairly new. I use air quotes there because I don't think anybody was doing that in the 70s. So, like, are there former athletes that you've worked with that didn't have necessarily access to some of this, whether it was on their team or that they knew they could reach out to? They're like, man, if I would have had that back in my time, that would have been completely different.
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of veterans on teams that are still playing go through that, where now most colleges, NCAA has requirements of mental health services that have to be provided.
Okay.
So the guys that go into the league from college are used to having sports psychology and sports psychiatry on site, whereas the older guys in the NBA, NFL, they're like, oh, that's new. Like, you don't have to talk to that person. And so it's different.
I mean, I can imagine those folks that you're talking about are in their 30s, mid-30s. So that's, I mean, how new are we talking about having full-time staff for college and for the professional ranks?
I want to say 2019 or 2020 is when the NBA required a consulting psychiatrist.
That's not that long ago.
I know, and I think the NFL was around the same time. NCAA, I believe, was a few years ago as well. So it is newer to have it as a requirement, but now I'd like to see it even one step further, and that it's actually a utilized requirement. And I actually just put out a op-ed in Sports Business Journal called More Than Just a Checkbox. Because mental health services should be more than just a checkbox. It should be seen as important as the physical strength training.
I know you've got a couple things going on as we get closer to the Super Bowl here in New Orleans. Can you tell us about them?
Sure. So tomorrow is the NFLPA Be Well event, which is an event held for clinicians, which is really interesting. So no public, and I'll be moderating a panel with 2 former and 2 active players. And then on Saturday at the Lee Steinberg Super Bowl party, there's a Brain Health Summit element. So it's a 6-hour-long party, but the first 2 hours are 2 panels back-to-back about brain health. So I'll be moderating the health innovation panel.
Now, how much of brain health are we talking, like, just your mental and your attitude like we've been talking about, and how much of it is the CTE elephant in the room that the NFL is certainly dealing with?
A bit of that, too. One of our speakers on the panel is I believe she's the director of concussion at University of Missouri Columbia. Okay. So we'll have some good people there. Awesome.
We'll enjoy New Orleans. Best of luck with all of that, and we appreciate a little bit of time today.
Thanks. Appreciate you.
That is Brooke Choulet, MD. She is with Concierge Performance Psychiatry, works with a number of professional athletes throughout the country, and we appreciate a little bit of her time. We'll take a time out when we come back. See if we can chat with Adam Levine. That'll be next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Closets.com is the website. David Vaughn and his team, 30 years of redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. I had an awesome conversation earlier today with David Duvall. We had some breakfast and was just talking about some of the awesome things that they're doing right now at One Bath and Closets. And one of the things that's important to realize is that David and his team are locally owned. You want to do business with someone local here in South Louisiana in the Baton Rouge area, and David is certainly that. He offers a lifetime warranty on his work. If you're someone who's got fiberglass that you can't clean in the bathroom, which is a little bit older, if you've got dingy appliances, stuff can be really difficult to clean. Sometimes it's so far gone you can't clean it. It's kind of like your car. Sometimes it pays to repair. Sometimes you just got to get a new one. Sometimes you just got to replace it. And that may be the case, and you can get one of those tub-to-shower conversions or an entire bathroom remodel. Work with someone local, like One Bath and Closets. You can start that process with a free consultation at onebathandclosets.com. It's online, onebathandclosets.com.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
When it comes to choosing energy for your family and your home, make the smart choice with natural gas. You can count on efficient and affordable natural gas to keep you comfortable and reduce your environmental impact to help protect our planet. Together, we're fueling our energy future. Atmos Energy.
There it is, the extra mile. On the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further. Like vans customized for work or play. With safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
There's never been a better time to catch a John Deere deal from the crew of Sunshine. Ask us about our low monthly payment options on our tractor packages and let the good times roll. With equipment strong enough to power one of the world's largest celebrations, we've got your needs covered too. Learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com. Some restrictions apply. See dealer for details.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Wrapping up hour number 1 here from Radio Row Super Bowl 59. It's been a blast all week long. Appreciate the folks at LeBear's Baton Rouge for making this possible. And certainly, we got to shout out our folks at Rouse's official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. If you're looking for a king cake this carnival season, looking for a king cake for the Super Bowl party, king cake's pretty popular at Super Bowl parties. Get on by Rouse's. They're going to bake 600 600,000 of them this carnival season. 600,000. So whether you're looking for the standard cinnamon, whether you're looking for the cream cheese filled, strawberry, blueberry, whatever the case may be, they've got them at your local Rouse's. And if you're in South Louisiana all the way to Gulf Shores, you've got a local Rouse's location. So if you're looking for a king cake, get on by Rouse's. We appreciate them for bringing you our Thursday shows each and every week. Here's the deal. And I feel like I'll just, come clean on this whole thing because, if you were here on Monday, we teased Kurt Schilling 5 times and never had him. If you've been here today, we've teased Adam Devine 3 times, and he's still not here. The way this works is there are literally hundreds of sets in this room. And these folks do interviews for hours and hours and hours. And sometimes they're kept on a strict schedule by their handlers. Sometimes things get a little out of whack and they get a little bit late. So we've got things booked and they're set hours in advance, and sometimes it works out and sometimes you just got to kind of adapt on the fly. So I'm hopeful that Adam sits down here pretty shortly. That may happen. It may not. I promise I'm not just making stuff up. So you'll come back at the other side of the break when I start to tease things. It's just a very fluid situation. You got to handle it. But it honestly beats being in the studio. It's a lot of fun to kind of watch all this unfold. So hopefully we get to Adam, and hopefully Lorenzo Neal is here in 15 minutes, and we'll just kind of roll with the punches for the next hour and 15 minutes as they roll towards us. I wanted to spend some time talking about Jalen Hurts, though, because I haven't talked a ton about this Super Bowl specifically. And Jalen Hurts is someone that we have watched since he was a freshman in college. If you're in this market and you're paying attention to me, you're probably an LSU person, an SEC football follower, and you watched Jalen Hurts start for Alabama early on in his career. He won that job and became the first true freshman starting quarterback at Alabama in 32 years once he stole that job from Blake Barnett. He started the USC game. Barnett did. Hurts played a little bit. Then he took the starting job, and he became a star right out of the chute as a freshman. He threw for 2,700 yards and 23 touchdowns. He ran the ball for 954 yards and 13 touchdowns. He broke the school single-season record for rushing yards by a quarterback. He was really, really good. And I think the game that a lot of people will remember was against LSU when they couldn't score. Dave Aranda's team did an awesome job of corralling him, and we went to the fourth quarter in a scoreless ball game. And they made the play to win it. Hurts ran it up the middle, and LSU couldn't score if they had 5 weeks to play that day. And from there, you thought he was going to have a long career as Alabama's starting quarterback and guy that could win the Heisman Trophy and continue to stock Nick Saban's trophy shelves with championships. Well, you know the story that he gets replaced by Tua in a championship game where he wasn't playing well, and Tua throws the championship-winning pass to Devontae Smith, and at that point he's kind of lost his job. He didn't leave immediately. He stayed. And then you get to the SEC championship game, and Jalen Hurts has got to come in and play. And he plays great, and they win the game, and he wins the MVP, and then the job's handed right back to Tua. So at that point, Jalen Hurts says, okay, I'm going to move on, and he goes to Oklahoma. And we, of course, ran into him again there, where LSU is going on that historic run in 2019, and you see them in the semifinal. And nobody knows what Jalen Hurts did that day because Joe Burrow and Justin Jefferson put on a freaking show. But Jalen Hurts acquitted himself okay against what was at that point a really good defense. You can talk about the Ole Miss game all you want with that defense. You can try to malign them based on Vanderbilt scoring a lot of points, but the fact is that defense had a ton of pros on it, and Jalen Hurts played okay in that game. And for Lincoln Riley's offense, he put together ridiculous season that got overshadowed by how incredible Joe Burrow was. You look at his career, his year at Oklahoma. He threw for 3,851 yards and 32 touchdowns. And then he ran it for 1,300 more yards and 20 touchdowns. Those are Tim Tebow-style numbers that Jalen Hurts was putting up in his year at Oklahoma. But they got absolutely annihilated by the greatest team any of us have ever seen. So everybody takes his career and is like, well, whatever, they weren't that good. And I'll be, like, completely honest, I couldn't believe the Eagles drafted him. Because I was like, this guy, he got benched at Bama. He beat up on the Big 12. They don't play any defense. He ran into LSU, got beat by 1,000. Like, why are you drafting this guy? And it turns out, like, they've done an incredible job of taking Jalen Hurts' skill set, which is amazing. He's big, he's physical, he's fast, he's got a good arm, he's got a great head on his shoulders, and they've tailored an offense to him. And while he was good with the Kenneth Gainwell, Sanders backfield, now you put a 2,000-yard rusher back there, and he's even more difficult to deal with. And everyone's going to look back 2 years ago at the fumble and not at the fact that he was just awesome in the first half of that game. But he's got a chance to kind of reshape his legacy. And I do think the more interesting piece to this game is Mahomes and Reed chasing history. That, to me, is a more interesting storyline than Jalen Hurts. But I do think Jalen Hurts' rise to this point has absolutely been worth talking about and is a good story. I just don't find it the most amazing because I think that we're watching, and I know that we're watching history on the other sideline. But this is a big day for Jalen Hurts on Sunday because these chances don't come around that often. You can ask Marino, you can ask Breeze, you can ask Aaron Rodgers, you can ask Ben Roethlisberger, you can ask Eli Manning. Any of those quarterbacks, none of them played in 3, 4, 5 Super Bowls. Like Mahomes does and Brady does, and Manning got to 3, Peyton. But sometimes this is your only bite at the apple. It's your only chance to be the guy. It's your only chance to carve that part of your legacy in. And we don't know if Jalen Hurts will ever get back. Ask Lamar Jackson about playing in Super Bowls. Exactly. We don't know that Joe Burrow's getting back. I hope so. Be awesome. Jaden Daniels isn't guaranteed to make a Super Bowl. So when you talk about Brady and you talk about Mahomes, it's just a different discussion. But Jalen Hurts can go from that guy who got benched at Alabama, who wasn't good enough at Oklahoma to win anything of significance, who screwed up and fumbled in the Super Bowl. Like, nobody speaks in historic terms about Donovan McNabb. It's the same team, but he was in the NFC Championship game all the time, and he got to one Super Bowl, and T.O. had a broken leg. And, like, you think of Donovan McNabb as a good quarterback who Andy Reid had, who was on the soup commercials, but you don't think of him in terms as a Super Bowl champion. And that's what Jalen Hurts has an opportunity to kind of reshape the way we think about him. He's not an MVP at this point, but he's really good, and he can elevate himself. I don't have a rooting interest in this, but I do have an interest from a coverage perspective in the fact that we have been paying attention to Jalen Hurts since he entered the spotlight is fascinating to me. Patrick Mahomes played his college football in anonymity and then got to the NFL and sat on the bench for a year. So we haven't known him as long. Like Hurts, it's been, for us, it's just been in the spotlight. And I think that he's got a real chance to do something special on Sunday. And I'm leaning on Thursday. I very much reserve the right to change my opinion over the next 24 hours. I'm leaning Philly right now. And that may seem stupid. But that offensive line is good, and those weapons are ridiculous. And that defensive front is awesome and good enough to disrupt Patrick Mahomes. And they got some guys in the back end of that secondary that can make some plays. Bond's been as good as anybody in the middle. I've heard it a million times. You're foolish to bet against the Chiefs. You're silly if you look the other way. You're trying to be the smartest guy in the room if you do that. I mean, you look at this Philly team, they've been pretty good. And they lost a game with Kenny Pickett playing quarterback to the Commanders. But when Hurts is out there, they're pretty damn good. And he's going to be out there at least to start things on Sunday. And I'm not here to tell you I'm pulling for Jalen Hurts. But it's an interesting storyline in this game, and I think a guy that can completely rewrite his legacy over the course of 4 hours here in New Orleans, or it could kind of be the same as the guy who was pretty good but never quite good enough. He was pretty good at Alabama, Never quite good enough, lost his job. Pretty good at Oklahoma, not quite good enough to do anything significant in the postseason. Pretty good in the NFL regular season, not quite good enough to get over the hump against Mahomes. All of a sudden, you go from pretty good, not quite good enough, to, oh, that's a champ. That dude's for real. Cool stuff, I think. We're here on Radio Row for Super Bowl 59, brought to you by the folks at LeBear's Baton Rouge. Be a great time to get on by LeBear's on Sunday to watch the Super Bowl. I'll be at LeBear's coming up on Sunday from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock. Kickoff's at 5:30, so I'm going to head on home to watch the action. But I'll be there beforehand. There'll be some great food and drinks on hand, a lot of great televisions. There'll be some college hoop on. I may, and just hide your excitement, I may get them to put the Waste Management Open on Sunday on one of the smaller TVs. Just saying. But I'll be there from 3 to 5, so if you're looking for something to do to get ready for the Super Bowl, looking for a place to watch the Super Bowl, LeBear's is an awesome spot inside ESPN Bet. That's where I'll be from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock coming up on Sunday. That's a fast-moving first hour. Even though it was kind of jumbled based on what we got and who we were looking for and who did come and who didn't come, it moved really quickly. We opened up the hour talking about LSU basketball. They fall by 19 in Athens last night in a completely disastrous performance on both sides of the ball. I gave my thoughts on it. Also got a story up on LouisianaSports.net about that. Then in the second segment, spend some time talking about the Brian Kelly press conference and Greg Brooks and his statements on that. Then Brooke Choulet from she's a sports psychiatrist, was with us, kind of talking about the work that she's done with some professional athletes on the mental health side of things, which is kind of a new frontier, even newer than I thought in talking to her. You can catch all that on demand wherever you find your sound. We'll come back. Be a fast-moving hour number 2 coming up next from Radio Row.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com is that website. Every car that is on the lot is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. How's a 100,000-mile warranty sound like? What's a 10-year warranty sound like to you? Just part of the Genesis experience. How about complimentary maintenance for 3 years on your new purchase? You can make that happen. It can be valet maintenance, meaning you don't even have to really lift a finger. You do have to pick up your phone. You got to call them and say, hey, I need some maintenance done. They'll come get your car. They'll leave you with a vehicle. They'll bring your car back to the dealership. They'll service it, oil change, wipers, air filter, the whole deal. You'll have a car, so you'll be able to get along your day. Then they'll bring your car back, take the loaner, and you got your maintenance done. 3 years complimentary maintenance. Check them out online at Mercedes at genesisofbatonrouge.com. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge. You can find them online. It's at genesisofbatonrouge.com.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
There's never been a better time to catch a John Deere deal from the crew of Sunshine. Ask us about our low monthly payment options on our tractor packages and let the good times roll. With equipment strong enough to power one of the world's largest celebrations, we've got your needs covered too. Learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com. Some restrictions apply. See dealer for details. Offer ends March 5th, 2025.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, Our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Ochsner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Doug Brown. The NBA trade deadline passed just seconds ago. In some of the last deals reported before the deadline, ESPN's Shams Charania says the Hawks get Terrence Mann and Bones Highland in a deal with the Clippers. Los Angeles gets Bogdan Bogdanovic and 3 second-round picks. Also, the Grizzlies send Marcus Smart and a first-round pick to the Wizards in a multi-team deal. Memphis gets 2 second-round picks and some roster flexibility. Warriors head coach Steve Kerr would like to see.
Consider making the trade deadline, at the All-Star break, just so you don't have to face these games where guys are getting traded half an hour before and a game, and you're trying to process the emotions and trying to win a game.
Steve Kerr. Ohio State coach Ryan Day will get a new 7-year contract after winning the national title. The deal will make him the second highest paid college head football coach.
Hey, it's your resident Super Bowl champ, Chris Candy, coming up Friday. I'll tell you what I'll need to see from Jalen Hurts and the Eagles if they want to end the Chiefs' dominance. It's on Sportsman 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio.
Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boy, does it smell good.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
That's good.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio, this is Hunt Palmer.
Hour number 2, Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, presented by Rouse's Markets. We're here on Radio Row getting ready for Super Bowl 59. We've had a ton of guests all week long. It's been a ton of fun, and it's our pleasure to welcome our next one. He's an all-time great in the NFL at the fullback spot. 16 years in the National Football League. He is Lorenzo Neal. Thanks for some time. How are you?
Hey, I'm great, brother. It's great to be on the show, man. I remember this is where the place it all started, man. This is the place I got drafted. The New Orleans Saints played here for 4 years. Had playoffs. Jimmy Moore and and his son and man, it's believe it or not, Fangio was here, the linebacker coach, and John Pease and all the coaching staff. So it's fitting that that Fangio's playing in a Super Bowl with his amazing defense, and I get to come back to New Orleans, man. Love this place.
I did not realize that the Saints had drafted you. I'm gonna be. I'm gonna put
really?
all the. I'm gonna be on all the cards on the table.
So you brought me on. Didn't know I was a Saint. Who that, babe?
I was born in '88.
Well, babe, I wasn't in the league.
Oh no, I vividly remember you in San Diego and Baltimore and Oakland. I found out you were coming on the show. I was like, oh. He got drafted by the Saints.
Really?
So
and no beignets here, babe. You know what I'm saying? I thought you had me something good to eat yet.
Nah, but they got you coming back over there.
You didn't know I still had that New Orleans swing right now, right? You go make some groceries yet?
Make some groceries. Now that's a New Orleans thing. See, I'm from North Louisiana, from Shreveport, so I would never. My wife is from South Louisiana. Oh, she'll say it.
Okay,
she'll say
it was crazy. I come to New Orleans, kid from California, Fresno State, so. You got to realize, it's Fresno, and it's California, and you go to New Orleans. I mean, where the gator and the frog legs and the friggin', the jambalaya. So it was a culture shock for me from a small little country town of California to come out here. I was like, Mom, can you come out for a week? I I'd go out and I'm like, man, I talked to a girl and like, hey, I was like, hey, I met this girl, nice girl, and I'm like, okay, how you doing? Great. And I'm like, you want to go out? She's like, you want to go out on a date? Yeah. I'm like, oh, yeah. I mean, they answer the question for you.
There you go.
I'm like, I'm going to go make groceries? Yeah. Are you on some gum? Yeah. So it was like a culture shock for me. I'm like, can I answer the question? Or are you asking me? But I love this place. Food's great, by the way.
Tell me about being a Saint in the early 90s. It was, a lot of people my age, the Breeze era is kind of all we know. But clearly, Mora had some really good years in New Orleans.
Not when I was here.
I know. But what was it like when you were here?
Jim Moore is an awesome guy. I know, Jim Moore Jr., doing a great job at Connecticut. Love the family. Jim Moore, I come here to New Orleans. They trade Ironhead Hayward for me, and he goes to Atlanta, and they bring me in. I was picked number 80. I was drafted 87th overall in the draft. And just coming, and I come here, and it's Ricky Jackson, Sam Mills, Von Johnson, the Dome Patrol. I'm playing with Dalton Hilliard, playing with Eric Martin. Frank Warren. These dudes was like, I looked at these guys and I was scared. These brothers, man. I've never seen guys with trophy cases in their mouth. It was like, all the gold. I'm like, man. And I'm like, dude, I was like, oh my goodness. And it was Ricky's 34, 35 at the time. I'm 20, 19 years old, and these guys 34, 35 years old. And you come in, and these are men, and it's just. I remember Frank. We're in training camp, or we're in New Orleans, and we're practicing. You know how humid and how hot it is. And at lunchtime, he's sitting outside smoking. I'm like, my God, this guy's smoking a cigarette. It's 130. It's 110 degrees, and it's so humid. Some gun smoking out here. I said, oh, word, my head. Oh, what's going on? But I loved it. These guys are so tough, so mean, and just that defense was stingy. You play in New Orleans, it meant something. Bro, I came from Fresno, so it wasn't a big college, but it's okay. But we had 3 practice fields. We had turf. We had a weight room, probably 8,000 square feet, 5,000 square feet. I come to the Saints. We have 70 yards of grass. We have 75 yards of turf. We have only 1 practice field. We have 5 trailers. I'm like, whoa, is this the NFL? What the hell is going on here?
This is what we call the Aints.
It was crazy, but it's like, but then we drafted the Magnificent 5. It was me, Derek Brown, Irv Smith, Big Willie Rofe. We had some, so we had some guys that stepped in and played. We started off like 5-0. I was leading the league in rushing. I broke the ankle. So it was great. I loved it, and of course, I moved to the new facility that's on Powers. I was able to witness the transition to the turf and 5 fields, so I did get to see that. So I don't want to make it all bad, but I remember training camp. God, you got time for this training camp?
I got plenty. I got nothing but time.
Okay, so I go to training camp, and usually the rookies, you carry the veterans' pads, and you do certain things, which is it's normal. So anyway, they're gonna play some cards. So I'm like, I'm the only fullback. Brad Muster, I don't remember that name. Brad Muster from Stanford, played for Chicago, the Bears. Big time fullback. You gotta look him up. Brad Muster. I know it's before your time, so I know you're like, well, what the hell you're talking about? I'm too old. He's like, you're like, you brought this old man on. This guy's trying to mention names.
I'm all ears.
You're like, what? So Brad's injured. He's a fullback, but he's injured. So they brought him in. He's a big free agent. So but they draft me as a rookie. He's probably gonna back him up, but he's injured. So I'm at training camp. I'm the only fullback. So I'm running lead draw, ISO, power. It's the Saints. It's Jim Moore, physical, beat downhill. So I'm the only fullback. So I'm getting beat up. And I remember saying, okay, I told you guys, Ricky Jack, get us some beer because we had a night off or whatever. So I'm going to bring some beer, whatever, to the room and help out. And I'm like, look, just the next day, make sure you guys don't hurt me. Make sure not hurt me. Let's take it easy. Let's brother-in-law. So when I'm bringing you guys beer and pizza, so when we run lead, I'm going to look at you and get, the brother-in-law, so we'll just come up and make it look good, thud. Or next play, next day, I'm like, all right, cool. At least I'm the only fullback. They're going to take it easy on me today. We run lead. Sam Mills come in there and put me on my butt. It's like, dude, what good was the pizza? What good was the pizza?
I'm cracking up at all this Jacob Hester is going to be losing his mind when he hears about this because he tries to talk about fullbacks 4 times a week all year.
Oh, yeah.
And he brings up your name consistently. Now, the question
They made me tough. They made me mean.
The question I'm going to ask is, you left San Diego in 2007 as a fullback, and you went on to Baltimore, and Hester took over as fullback after that, he and Mike Tolbert. Is it true that was the true downfall of the Chargers? When they replaced you with Hester and Tolbert, the franchise never recovered?
That was good. That was good. I love you, man. Yeah, you know what? You're my agent, man. You know what? I think when you look at the fullback position,
that was what I was going to ask next. Like, what do you think when you watch football now?
It's sad because when I played Sam Gash, if you look at Sam Gash, watch what he played in Buffalo and Baltimore, seeing this guy hit you, he would bring guys to their knees. When we saw guys, what up, baby? What it do? Did you see so many guys that played the game? You know, and you like Mike Allstott, the A-Train, run on over guys, running through guys. I think if you talk about the fullbacks, look at friggin' Moose Johnson, what he did for Emmitt Smith with the neck roll, watching him get downhill and blow guys down, run guys over. I look at another guy, played for Detroit Lions. People don't talk about Detroit, Corey Schlesinger, good fullback, blocked hard. I wanted another fullback that should be, when you think about great receiving fullbacks, I think the greatest fullback that played the game as a receiver is Larry Sanders, Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah.
Go watch what he did. And they look at, when you look at punters and you look at certain guys, but you go bring in linebackers. You go get Ray Lewis. You know who he is.
I do.
And you ask Ray Lewis, what happened when you block against a guy like Sam Gash, a guy like Lorenzo Neal? Go ask these linebackers, Jesse Tuggle, the guys of yesterday. Go get Brian Urlacher and ask Brian Urlacher about guys like Sam Gash, Lorenzo Neal. Mike, go ask them. Go get those guys. Go get Brian Dawkins, Hall of Fame, and ask him, hey, what happened when you block a guy like Lorenzo Neal? Go get these guys and talk about what it meant to the game. But you don't have the Mike Allstott or Sam Gash or Moose Johnson, one of those guys in the Hall of Fame. And they say, oh, because they don't get enough plays. Well, you got punters, field goal kickers in there, and punters, we play more. It's just, I think it's horrible because when you watch the fullback position, you go pull up tape of these guys that I'm talking about, we displaced linebackers.
Yeah.
We moved them out of the hole. LT, you look at Corey Dillon, and when I was leading away for Corey Dillon, Eddie George, all these guys, and Sam Gash, all those guys, what they did, it's a shame. I think that people don't talk about the fullback position, and it's a dying breed.
And that's what Hester talks about all the time. But on the other end of that coin, I think you have seen this year the reemergence of the running back.
Oh, no
and
question.
so that's got to make you smile.
It makes me smile, and the only thing is missing would make me have a bigger smile if Kansas City Chiefs wasn't in this and it was Baltimore and Philadelphia. Because then you would have the number 1 and number 2 rushing teams in the league, and that would have been vindication for me, because what Derrick Henry and what Saquon was able to do, and the Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones didn't want to sign either one of these guys, and Derrick Henry picked up the phone and called the Cowboys, and they wouldn't return his call. I mean, when you think about that, and you think about the way that the running back position has been devalued because of the fact it's like, okay, they can only play after 4 or 5 years. They're done because they're taking so much of a hit. If that's the case, then pay them for the first 4 or 5 years. Then make an exception to the rules. Make them make 50 or 60 or 70, whatever they're worth during those first 5 or 7, 8 years when they're healthy, instead of saying, because that's the only position that you want to devalue after years 6 and 7.
Yeah.
Linebackers, quarterbacks, after 6 or 7 or whatever, offensive linemen, now you're in the money. Why isn't that for run back?
I could do this all day. They're telling me we got to wrap you up.
Wrap it up.
We appreciate it, Neal. That's Lorenzo Neal, all-time great fullback. Enjoy the game this weekend.
Thanks, brother. Cheers.
Great conversation there with Lorenzo Neal, as, again, like I said, one of the greatest in the history of the NFL. 4-time Pro Bowler, 2-time first-team All-Pro, and former New Orleans Saints draft pick, Lorenzo Neal. Guy with a lot of energy, a lot of passion, loves the game of football, and not thrilled with the way that it's going with chunking it all over the yard. But, hey, guy was fun to watch in his time. And now I get to tell Hester that I interviewed one of the great fullbacks of all time, and he'll be a little bit jealous of that. We're chugging right along here. It is, of course, a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is the website. How often do you get online and give a Google review to your insurance broker? Probably not that often. The Highland Insurance Group, it happens all the time. They've had over 100 Google reviews from their clients because they do such a wonderful job that people actually notice how great their insurance is being handled. If that's not the relationship that you currently have with your insurance broker, then change that. Give the Highland Insurance Group a call or go visit them online at HighlandIG.com. Jonathan Carver and his team are fantastic to work with. They're right there in Baton Rouge. They can help you out statewide with your commercial property and casualty insurance or with your group and employee benefits. It's the Highland Insurance Group. Check them out online at HighlandIG.com, HighlandIG.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
There's never been a better time to catch a John Deere deal from the crew of Sunshine. Ask us about our low monthly payment options on our tractor packages and let the good times roll. With equipment strong enough to power one of the world's largest celebrations, we've got your needs covered too. Learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com. Some restrictions apply. See dealer for details. Offer ends March 5th, 2025.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years.
The Hunt Palmer Show, live from Super Bowl 59 Radio Row in New Orleans. Presented by L'Auberge Casino Hotel, Baton Rouge.
Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show presented by Rouse's. Lorenzo Neal's got some energy, huh? I got 3 text messages during that interview from folks that are listening going, man, this guy can talk. He was fired up, and they had to pull him out of there. I was going to get him to talk about Believe Network, but he's part of a podcast network that talks a lot of football. So if you're interested in hearing more of Lorenzo Neal, what you just heard there in that segment, I highly suggest go check out the Believe Network. He's a ton of fun. One of the things I noticed, he's got that Booger McFarland type deal working with the hand where the fingers are just a little bit out of whack because He had a lot of collisions in his day. You play 16 years in the NFL, and your main job is just to run into 245-pound linebackers. You might mess some fingers up. And Lo Neal certainly did that, but had a lot of fun with that conversation for sure. Brian Kelly met with the media yesterday. I want to take a little bit of time to talk about that. I thought I mentioned in the first hour about Brian Kelly talking about the Greg Brooks situation, so we'll kind of leave that there in the first hour. But he called the press conference to talk about the transfer portal class that LSU's put together. And this was the first cut, just kind of talking about what the goals were and how he feels LSU accomplished those in December and early January.
We had 16 total transfers come in, 8 on offense, 7 on defense, and 1 special teams player. And we're pretty excited about that. They give us a experienced group that has played high-level football and blends to the existing program that we have. So from that perspective, combined with 3 straight top 10 high school signing classes, we wanted now to enter into adding to that roster. And I think we addressed it, and we believe that this group now is such that we can compete for a championship.
And there it is. Like, that's pretty clearly stated. We believe now that we can compete for a championship. I was a little surprised to hear Brian Kelly entering year 2 say, yeah, we can't get this done. And that was with Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, and Brian Thomas. But we watched that defense play, and I think you could have Matt House call on the defense. I think you could have name your elite defensive mind in football. Nick Saban, Vic Fangio, Steve Spagnuolo, whoever, Dave Aranda, like whoever you want to say, I don't think anybody was going to coach that defense to be awesome. Now, they could have been better than they were. They were not coached well. But I think Brian Kelly probably knew that it wasn't quite there. But I do think he probably thought year 3 would be a little bit better. And I think we all did, and it was not. But the expectations are very clearly defined. There's nobody on a different page here. Everybody's on the exact same page. Brian Kelly, the team, the coaching staff, the talking heads on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge, and the fan base. Everybody is looking at this going, okay, it's year 4, quarterback's back, you're signing high school kids, you went and spent a bunch of money in the portal, you've got the $1 million match. You've raised the money. The NIL funds are there. Like, everything has been put together for 3+ years. There's only one acceptable outcome of this season. Everybody's on that page. And so we'll see what happens. But it's nice sometimes from our spot to sit here and hear a coach very plainly on the record and go, yeah, we're here to compete for a championship now. And so that's where we push off the dock from as you get into spring football that comes up in about a month, and then we get into the summer and into fall camp coming up in August. All right, let's go further with the portal plan to build that championship roster.
The big picture plan is exactly what you said. It was to surround Garrett on offense, to give Blake the pieces that he needs on defense to have a championship roster. And I believe we did that on paper. Now we need to go to work on that, and that work is in the details over the next few months.
The paper is the part that puzzles me when we start talking about 3 straight top 10 signing classes, because as everyone has been made well aware by me, or you look at this signing class from 3 years ago, it's gone. The Deshaun Womack, Shelton Sampson, Zalance Hurd class that featured, Kylan Jackson, that class has moved on. You don't have almost anything remaining from it. You've got Whit Weeks, you've got Ashton Stamps, you've got DJ Chester, but it is a shell of what we thought it was when they inked, and that's all on paper. The paper thing doesn't really work. Now it's putting people on the practice field that can make this thing go. There was a time where the paper thing kind of worked to an extent. I could look at the recruiting rankings over the course of 4 years, and I could go, that team is going to be really good, that team is not going to be good. I could look at the recruiting rankings from Urban Meyer's Florida teams or Les Miles' LSU teams and go, that team's got a chance to be good. I could look at the same recruiting rankings for Kansas State and Cal and go, they're not going to be very good. Now, the recruiting rankings don't matter that much because half the players or more don't stay. But you, year by year, assemble talent, and some of the services put star rankings on the recruits and whatever. But you've got production, and you understand kind of what you're putting together. But it does have to come together in the fall. And that's where you got to throw the paper out, and they got to put the pads on and make it work. But clearly there's been a change in philosophy with the football organization at LSU. And this is the first step in truly trying a different way. So we'll see kind of how it goes. Now, the question was asked, have you seen any recruits, any of the portal guys that have stood out early while they've been on campus for almost a month?
Experience at the tight end position to marry with a really exceptionally young player in Trey-Dez, but bringing in Bauer Sharp, who's got a lot of experience and, a veteran kind of presence there at the tight end position. He's been outstanding. I think Jack Pyburn brings more than just his ability on the field, but how he impacts everybody in the locker room and in the weight room. His demeanor, his attitude is infectious. I think those two guys. And I'd say, Mansour Delant has been very, very, I think, impactful at the cornerback position. We've got some younger guys, some guys with experience, but we don't have a veteran player back there. And his leadership and just the way he's handled himself has been outstanding.
You hear this about Pyburn, anybody you ask, whether it's folks at Florida or folks now at LSU, when you bring up Jack Pyburn, it's the mental and the emotional and the attitude portion of it that stands out more than the production at Florida or the draft stock or what stars he was rated by the transfer portal folks. It's like, this guy's a wild man, and he's going to come in and he's going to whip everybody into shape, and he's going to be the guy who lifts the hardest and practices the hardest and plays the hardest with the most emotion, and that's what he's going to be, and that's a good thing to have on your defense. I wish Jack Pyburn had 8 more sacks at Florida than he does. I wish he was a proven elite pass rusher, but he is a proven run stopper. He is a physical presence on the edge. He is a guy that you can absolutely trust to stop the run and to play hard in short yardage situations, and that's all on the field. But you're going to get a guy emotionally that immediately steps in as a leader. And I heard Hester talking about this a little bit in the morning show, but and I don't even have to have been a part of a locker room to make this observation. Like, in this age of half your signing class, if you stay at a school for 3 or 4 years, leaving over the course of those 3 or 4 years or more, and then 16 guys coming in mid-semester to go do spring football, like, there's a lot of getting to know people and assimilating folks into your culture that you've got to do. And it sounds like Pyburn, it took him 5 minutes. And then you can kind of bring everyone along. And as Hester pointed out this morning, like, if that wouldn't have been received the same way 10, 12 years ago. But now it's just part of it. You're just going to have a lot of new guys. And it feels like Pyburn's going to fit in really, really well. As far as Delane goes, I think what Brian Kelly said there is kind of echoing how I've broken it down, where, like I've said, I'm not sure where Mansour Delane's going to play. I don't know if he's an outside corner. I don't know if he's a nickel. I don't know if he's a safety. I don't know if he's a star. I'm not exactly sure what they're going to do with him. But I think his presence and versatility will allow him to kind of do what's necessary and other guys around him to do what they're best at. That's kind of been my read on the situation. And he mentioned him as a veteran presence, and that kind of speaks to my assumption on his role in the secondary. But the other guy who's played a lot and has got some accolades and does have versatility positionally is Tamarcus Cooley, the defensive back from NC State, and Kelly talked about him yesterday as well.
You're either trying to get a third corner on the field or you're trying to get the next best safety on the field, depending on how you play that position. He can do both. So his versatility, his ability to play man, his ability to run down plays really stood out to us. And an experienced player at that position. We're not very experienced at that position. You know, going into camp, Juwan Johnson was a backup, and that's a true freshman. So having an experienced player at that position allows, again, and I think I said this earlier, allows Blake many more opportunities to do the things that he needs to do on defense.
Now, in that answer about Tamarcus Cooley, he mentioned Juwan Johnson, and I can tell you that Juwan Johnson was working out at the star spot in fall camp. he was the backup to Major Burns. And Tamarcus Cooley doesn't look anything like Major Burns. Major Burns is like 6'2", well over 200 pounds, looks like a tall, rangy safety. Tamarcus Cooley is sub 6 feet and 200 pounds and looks like he looks more like Sage Ryan than he does Major Burns. But he's got all that versatility that Brian Kelly was talking about. And if you watch his highlights and then you just take a glance at the stat sheet, you can tell Tamarcus Cooley doesn't think twice about sticking his nose in there and making a tackle. He's just fine with that. So that is part of that versatility. He can run and chase down plays, as Brian Kelly said there, but he can also get in there and make a tackle in the ground game. And so Cooley and Delane give LSU a lot of versatility as they try to figure out where everybody else is supposed to go. The last bite I want to play here from Brian Kelly yesterday was the perception that LSU had let some folks go because revenue sharing was coming and they had to cut expenses. If you'll remember, Jacoby Stevens was let go. Nick Brissett was let go. There were a handful of administrative people inside the program that are no longer with LSU. And there was a prevailing thought and speculation that, oh, well, they got to pay these athletes $20 million. Like, they're going to get rid of some of these folks that may have a salary that they can put back in the kitty and not lose a lot of production. That was an assumption. Brian Kelly was asked point blank, like, is that why you did some of this?
No, and I think that's a natural question to ask, and that revenue sharing comes to us, assuming that the House NCAA decision, is finalized. But I know there are some programs around the country that have had to cut back, but that has not been the case here.
So there you have it. That's one of those deals where he can tell the truth or he can kind of make something up there, but that's the answer that you've gotten from the guy that's in charge of the entire football program. So he says, no, we've got an idea of what we want to do, and we're implementing that. I'll kind of leave it at that. We're here thanks to the folks at LeBear's Baton Rouge. Appreciate them for allowing us to be here all week long on Radio Row for Super Bowl 59. Chiefs and Eagles coming up Sunday. We're back tomorrow for another day here on Radio Row, and excited about that. We got two segments left to go. Scheduled to have Ricky Cobb from Outkick. That's not going to work out today. Looks like maybe that could happen tomorrow. Maybe 2 o'clock tomorrow is what that looks like. So I did have something that I'd like to talk about. We'll do a little baseball when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
There's never been a better time to catch a John Deere deal from the crew of Sunshine. Ask us about our low monthly payment options on our tractor packages and let the good times roll. With equipment strong enough to power one of the world's largest celebrations, we've got your needs covered too. Learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com. Some restrictions apply. See dealer for details. Offer ends March 5th, 2025.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972. Service Chevrolet Cadillac, our family serving your family.
For over 50 years.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
There it is, the extra mile. On the border of expected and extraordinary. For those willing to go further. Like vans customized for work or play. With safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Thursday show is brought to you by Rouse's Markets, official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. If you're going to a Super Bowl party this weekend, looking for your chips and dips, wine and spirits, cold beer, all that can be found at Rouse's. Plus, they got king cakes. And they got a lot of king cakes. They're going to bake 600,000 king cakes during carnival season. So if you'd like to bring a king cake, whether flavored or just a standard cinnamon, to your Super Bowl party, they can help you out at any Rouse's location. Our Thursday show is brought to you by Rouse's each and every week. All right, as y'all know, LouisianaSports.net, every morning I've had an LSU baseball position preview, went around the diamond, now into the pitching staff, and published relief pitching earlier today just before lunchtime. It was a little eye-opening to do a full dive in on the relief staff that I've got coming into this year, because the amount of pitchers that are gone from last year's team is just larger than I remember. I knew Griffin Herring was gone. I knew Ned Ackenhausen was gone. I knew Christian Little was gone. Certainly Cam Johnson's a big name, so you realize that. And then Fidel Ulloa, you remember that as well. But you also have to consider guys like Aiden Moffitt, like Justin Lohr, that are no longer here. Micah Bucknam pitched a little bit late in the season for LSU. So in total, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 guys just from the relief staff. That's not even counting Javen Coleman or Luke Holman or Gage Jump. I mean, you've lost a ton of pitching, and it comes as no surprise because last year you had 8 pitchers drafted, and the year before that you had 7. So you've had 15 pitchers drafted over the last 2 years. Jay Johnson's been on record saying that's an SEC record. I'm not going to go look that up, but I'll take his word for it. Sounds good. So you had to overhaul this entire thing from a pitching perspective. So what did they do? And I'm not really bringing in a lot of the starters' names here. Connor Ware, transfer from JUCO, who we've talked about a bunch. Cooper Williams, freshman, they took from Texas A&M at the 11th hour. Dalton Beck, who I thought was a hitter as of June of last year, was a great hitter at Incarnate Word, but is a left-handed pitcher. Jacob Myers was Nichols' ace. Chandler Dorsey, South Florida's closer. Connor Benj, relief arm from Dallas Baptist. Maverick Rizzi, 6'9" freshman from the Northeast. And then you got Dylan Thompson, who's a freshman right-hander, and then Grant Fontenot, who is a transfer from ULL. He actually pitched at LSU, then went to ULL, then came back to LSU. So there are a lot of guys that are brand new to this team on that list. You've also got Gavin Guidry, who could be a reliever, Cade Woods, Jaden Newt, DJ Primo, lots of arms. So how do I think this thing all shakes out from a relief perspective? Well, I profiled the starting pitching yesterday. I think right now, Cade Anderson, Anthony Ianson, and Chase Shores are likely the first three pitchers. That can change. I'm not 100% on it. I feel like Anderson and Ianson are virtual locks. I think Shores has got a chance to get that nod. Maybe it's Guidry. We'll see. But that doesn't include William Schmidt. It doesn't include Kason Evans. It doesn't include Zach Cowan. So there are guys that I didn't mention in this breakdown of the relief staff that are going to factor in relief pitching one way or another. So you've got a lot of arms that you've just got to find 4 or 5 of them that you can really count on week in and week out. And that's easier said than done. LSU has struggled with that each of the last 2 seasons. Now, it didn't help them 2 years ago that Chase Shores and Garrett Edwards were both guys they could count on, and they both got hurt. But last year you stayed relatively healthy, and you struggled to find a third starter. You struggled to find guys outside of Griffin Herring to pitch consistently. So there's never a guarantee that you've got enough dudes, but it feels like LSU's got a good chance. So if I suggest that Anthony Ianson, Cade Anderson, and Chase Shores are starters, that puts William Smith, Kason Evans, and Zach Cowan back into the bullpen, as well as Gavin Guidry, and I think those guys will factor in. I think we're talking him up a little bit more than maybe is reasonable, but Connor Ware feels like a star, and he feels like a stopper, and he feels to me like a guy who's going to fill that Griffin Herring role. And I think there's reason to believe that right now, Jay Johnson thinks that if I've got 3 games that need to be closed on a weekend, the guys I want to be getting the last out in those games is Connor Ware and Gavin Guidry. I think those are the 2 likely highest leverage end of ball game arms for LSU. I will also tell you that I think Kason Evans is going to factor into this thing in a big way. He's not a name that was brought up a lot in the summer, not a name that we mentioned much in the fall, but based on some of my discussions with the folks over at LSU baseball and then seeing what you see in the scrimmages, Kason Evans is a handful. He throws 99 from the right side. The breaking balls he's still working on, but it's good enough when you compare it with 99. And I think he's going to factor in. Everybody always says, what about William Schmidt? What about William Schmidt? I'm not dismissing William Schmidt at all. He's really good. William Schmidt had the best high school breaking ball in America last year in terms of spin rate, production. It's awesome. But I like Kason Evans today to get 3 outs a little bit more than I like William Schmidt. But remember, Zach Hess was a guy in his freshman year they weren't exactly sure what to do with. He started some midweek games, did a little bit of work out of the bullpen here and there, and then they let him just go into the back end of games and air the ball out and throw it 97 and spin the slider as hard as you can, and he became a force in the postseason. And I'm not ruling that out with Evans or Schmidt. I think right now Ware and Guidry are the more likely candidates, but I like those 2 freshmen. Another name that I was told back on Monday that the staff really has enjoyed in the preseason portion of practices, so the last 2 weeks, has been a name that I didn't pay attention to a lot of in the fall, and that's Connor Benj. He's from Dallas Baptist. He throws about 94, 95. He does have a pretty good slider. They feel like he's a pretty viable option in the middle innings. So to me, I think the bullpen kind of shakes out like this today. I like Zach Cowan is kind of an innings eater for a long relief guy. He's pitchability. He knows how to throw 4 pitches for strikes. He's been an ace for Wofford. He's pitched in high leverage spots. He was in an elimination game last year as a starter on Saturday in Chapel Hill Regional, and he threw 6 shutout innings. So I think that he's a good long option. I think you would look at Schmidt and Benj as guys who, and Kason Evans as guys who would be a middle inning setup type guy, along with Chandler Dorsey and Myers. Dorsey has closing experience. Myers has elite stuff, although I don't trust that to be over the plate at this point. And then I think you're bridging a gap to Guidry and to Ware. And I absolutely think that Guidry and Ware can be called on for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 outs in a given game. They're stretching both of them out right now to look at them as starters. And if you told me June 1st that Connor Ware was a starter for LSU, I'd believe it. I think that Jay Johnson would prefer to have him at the end of games. He has said repeatedly in off-season press conferences, one of my best pitchers will pitch at the end of games, and I think he's speaking in this point directly to Connor Ware, taking over from Griffin Herring, who was clearly one of their best pitchers. But I think that's kind of how it shakes out. And inevitably, one or two of the guys that I mentioned are not going to have a great year. That's just the way it goes with pitching, especially when you're as transfer heavy as LSU is. But you just need probably 4 of them to really be trustworthy. And that's enough all too often to win 2 of 3 or all 3 games in a weekend if you can get good starting pitching, which is not a guarantee for LSU, but you feel pretty good about where the staff is from that perspective. So if you'd like a little deeper dive on that, some numbers and a little bit more wordy interpretation of it, you can find it at louisianasports.net. In fact, you can find every position preview that I have done over the last 2 weeks at louisianasports.net. Just go to the Teams tab on the top of the site and click on LSU Sports, and you'll see every position preview right there under the LSU Sports tab. We're here and brought to you by LeBerge Baton Rouge. We'll take one more time out and close it up for a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972. Service Chevrolet Cadillac, our family serving your family.
For over 50 years.
There's never been a better time to catch a John Deere deal from the crew of Sunshine. Ask us about our low monthly payment options on our tractor packages and let the good times roll. With equipment strong enough to power one of the world's largest celebrations, we've got your needs covered too. Learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com. Some restrictions apply. See dealer for details. Offer ends March 5th, 2025.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
At Ochsner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Ochsner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Parish Construction and Roofing.
This is Coach Kim Mulkey. Go to parishbuilt.com for all of your roofing needs.
From your hometown, parishbuilt.com.
Looking for the ultimate game day experience? Come to the Queen Casino in Baton Rouge. Wall-to-wall TVs mean you'll see every touchdown in HD.
The Hunt Palmer Show, live from Super Bowl 59 Radio Row in New Orleans. Presented by L'Auberge Casino Hotel, Baton Rouge.
OTB, AFR, and the Hunt Palmer Show have been with you all week on Radio Row, walking you up to Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans. Our coverage is presented locally by L'Auberge Hotel Casino in Baton Rouge. Listen on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge, and you can watch on 104.5 ESPN YouTube channel. Got one more day of coverage from OTB, AFR, and, of course, the Hunt Palmer Show. And 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and Citizens Bank and Trust want to help cover your car payments. It's a $5,000 grand prize with a bonus chance to win free car washes from Benny's Car Wash for 6 months. We're also letting you earn extra entries by subscribing to our LouisianaSports.net daily newsletter. To sign up, visit 1045ESPN.com.
Big day for LSU down here at Super Bowl 59. It's been kind of a who's who of LSU football. Today I have seen, personally, Patrick Peterson, have seen Joe Burrow, have seen Malik Neighbors, have seen Andrew Whitworth, and Kevin Minner just walked up, and he's going to join Matt coming up here in 10 minutes to kick off AFR. So just a lot of great LSU football players all time that have been walking around, and that's just kind of the beauty of where we've been all week. It's been a heck of a time, and we've enjoyed the heck out of it. Thanks to the folks at L'Auberge Baton Rouge for making it all possible. It's been a fun show, fast-moving 2 hours. We're just about done. Beck, we got any take it or leave it on your end?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
Just take it.
All righty, first one here. 16 at the Waste Management. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it.
I'll take
every
it.
week. I think it's stupid that Liv tried to rip it off, but that's part of their shtick, just being stupid. I like 16 at the Waste Management. I don't necessarily need them to chuck 5,000 beers on the green.
Yeah, that's not good.
After things happen. That's not great, but the raucous environment, cheering for great shots and booing bad ones, and guys wearing hockey jerseys and cheering up the crowd. Like I can get down with all of that once a year. We don't need to do it again every week, but that's to have a little bit of an identity. That's I think cool.
All right, next one here. My Live Fantasy pick. Take it or leave it.
Leave it. I didn't read it. I don't even know who you picked.
Yeah, you did,
I saw
Hunt.
this stupid thing that said Live Fantasy Pick, and I never read another thing.
But
I texted you back
to
some
all of the
inflammatory
people listening out there, you need to know that the reason why I sent Hunt a Live Fantasy pick is because he was doing so terrible with his fantasy picks in the PGA Tour that he said he wasn't worried about it because at least he still had Live Fantasy coming up. So that's why I did it.
I don't have Live Fantasy. There is no Live Fantasy because it's not a real league. It's like I don't have a fantasy league for the 10-year-old youth soccer league down the street. There's no fantasy for that either because it's not real. It doesn't count. No one cares about it. So you don't have a fantasy league for it. You have fantasy leagues for the leagues that count. The NFL, fantasy football, good. NBA, fantasy basketball, got it. PGA Tour, fantasy golf, love to see it. Live, fake, same as youth sports, doesn't matter.
All right, last one here. The Pels traded Brandon Ingram to the Toronto Raptors for Bruce Brown Jr., Kelly Olynyk, 1 first-round pick and 1 second-rounder, according to Shams Charania. Take it or leave it.
I take it, I guess.
I'll take it.
I mean, it wasn't going to work the way it was constituted. They tried. I'm not even sure I could sit here and tell you that it was a bad job David Griffin did. There's just no way to evaluate. I think the position that the Saints have been put in is due to very, very poor general manager work. I can't quite say the same for the Saints. I don't know that it was good. I mean, for the Pelicans. I don't know that it was good, but I don't know that it was bad. It just never worked because they couldn't stay healthy. And I guess you could have theoretically foreseen Zion's injury issues to an extent because of the body type and the athleticism and the explosiveness and all that kind of stuff. But you still had to take him first because he's just a ridiculous talent. And I don't think anybody necessarily saw Brandon Ingram's injuries coming up, but they have, and they've coincided a ton, and there's that stat that's bouncing around. They've played less than 2 full seasons together on the floor in 5 years, and you're not going to get an equal return from Brandon Ingram because he's one of the 15, 20 best scorers in the league when he's healthy. But this is the way the NBA works. You pawn off your star, you get a couple of role guys and a couple of picks, and you try to start over. So I guess that's what the Pelicans are going to do. It's a bummer, and I wish they were more relevant, and I wish basketball in the state wasn't a complete dumpster fire outside of the women. But at this point, you would be hard-pressed to suggest that it's anything else. They're struggling to get much right in Pelicans land, and LSU is moved to 1-8. So that's it. And I guess that's take it or leave it as well. All right, we've done all we can do on this Thursday edition. We're presented by Rouse's. If you missed any of the show today, you can always catch it on demand at 1045ESPN.com's on-demand tab, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever you find your sound. You can always find us. We always appreciate you searching us out for our LSU content at Hunt on LSU, our Saints content at Hunt on Saints. I opened the show today with LSU's awful basketball loss last night in Athens. Quickly moved into some LSU football talk with Brian Kelly's press conference comments on Greg Brooks' situation. There's actually been an update to that story, which we're going to publish at LouisianaSports.net here shortly. Brooke Choulet jumped on board. She's a sports psychiatrist. That was an interesting conversation that we had there. I mentioned Jalen Hurts at the end of hour number 1 and the journey that we've kind of seen him on. Lorenzo Neal was awesome at the top of hour number 2, just a passionate dude who loves talking ball, and we did a lot of that at 2 o'clock. Brian Kelly's sound on the transfer portal. You can find that at Hunt on LSU on YouTube. And that's it. Matt's about to drive you home. Kevin Minter's going to crank things up here very shortly. We'll see you tomorrow.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Video Security Solutions, AVSSLA.com is the website. All your audio, all your video, all your security, all handled by one company locally, and that's Audio Video Security Solutions. I tell you this all the time. Go to Instagram. Check them out. AVSS_BR. AVSS_BR. You can see some of the really cool things that they're able to do for you. If you're like me, you're technologically inept, but you'd like to have a cool home entertainment system. You'd like to have your home wired for sound, surround sound. You'd like to have your televisions up and functioning and doing things that they need to do. Mitchell Fisher and his team can handle all of it for you. And the customer service after the installation has just been first class for us for an entire year since we moved back in the February of last year. Go online and check them out at avssla.com. They're in Baton Rouge. They can service you just about anywhere in South Louisiana for your audio, your videos, your security. It's all there at avssla.com, avssla.com.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors.